Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick,
And I'm Paul.
and we are Hear Us Out. And we value our time, and we think you should value your time too. And yet, all we ever do is tell you to go and watch things. Watch TV, watch long series, watch movies that are getting longer and longer all the time. And we are a big proponent of saying, go to the cinema. Paul, how many videos would you say that we've actually pushed people to say, go out and watch it in the cinema, don't just do it at home where you can pause things?
Oh, the majority of them. Like, if it isn't, if we haven't said it, we've implied it. So, like,
Very, very true. And our topic here is about, well, people are starting to do things about this. In fact, first little news story that a lot of people overlooked from a little while back. There was a lawmaker that suggested that theaters should say how long the ads are going to be before a movie, or, let you know when the actual start time of a movie will be. Now, Paul, I've had a personal experience. Not too long ago, I went to see the Saturday Night movie. It's the movie about Saturday Night Live. Loved it very much. Um, but because, like, I went to a half 8 showing and the film didn't start until almost 9. Like,
mhm.
that was the full almost half hour of ads. And it was because the cinema knew who they had going to it. It wasn't going to be a big sellout, etc. Blah blah blah. They kind of took the Mickey, as we'd say here in Ireland, if we're trying to say place politely. Sorry, there's cursing now. Um, you've had some extensively long and annoying waits for films to start as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, yeah. No, like any kind of major, major release of a movie, like IMAX or anything like that, they tend to in the first, especially the box office kind of times, they especially will chock full the beginning with a lot of ads and a lot of trailers and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Which it's part of doing business, I guess, as a person
True.
who wants to go to the cinema and stuff like that. But it's not part of the thing that I enjoy because I have to be there before the movie
Yeah.
starts. So like I don't like then getting there on time and then having to wait another 45 minutes to send to like half an hour, 45 minutes to actually see the movie.
And that's, I'm so anti piracy because I think cinemas do need to make money. I'm anti bringing people bringing their own food. I understand finances exist, but cinemas won't exist if they can't make money. So I do understand they need these ads. Trailers, I think, going to the movies and having trailers is great. It's advertising your own wares. I think movie people in particularly probably already predisposed to trailers. I know I friggin' love trailers. I'm all over trailers. I know you are too, Paul. We've done trailer reviews here. It's the extent and the length and the taking the extra advantage. And also, I think there's an Irish, people are understand Irish time sometimes, which means, if an Irish person says they'll be with you in 5 minutes, it means probably they'll be with you sometime today. Um, and it's the same for showing up for things. Like, Paul, I know there are people like me who will be there before the start time, the advertised start time, even though I know there's ads. That's just because that's the way I am, and it's the cinema.
Yeah.
Like, I think we both probably know people who are like, yeah, there'll be 15 minutes of commercials or 20 minutes of commercials, so I'm going to go in at 20 minutes past, and they don't mind if they miss the first 5 minutes of a movie, and I don't understand that mentality.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
I
that
don't
you?
understand that mentality either,
Okay.
and I'm not. No, it's not me at all. No, I literally said it a couple of minutes ago that I have to be there.
Yeah.
I have to be there, even though I know the fact that there's ads and trailers and stuff like that.
But
But
people are
yeah,
going to
as I
be
said,
like
it's
that if it's ridiculous. If you take advantage and have too many ads, you kind of can't blame those people for not taking it too seriously.
well, that's the thing. It's essentially that it's like it's become normal to be just like there's about half an hour of ads before a movie, and it's just like that's only true for a person who wants to make sure that they see the entire movie. That's only true for box office release movies.
Yeah.
If you're seeing a movie that's 2 weeks after its box office release, it's not 30 minutes anymore.
No,
It's probably 15 because they're not making money off the movie,
it's true.
um because that's the only thing. I will say that the reason that they do put 30 minutes, as far as I understand, the reason that they do put 30 minutes kind of ads at the start of a box office release is the fact is that because the cinema is actually making less money specifically off the film tickets
Mm,
itself at that time, that they put in more advertisements and stuff like that, because then they can charge more for those kind of things.
exactly.
But that doesn't mean that my time should be filled with it.
Yeah. And also, there is one more thing, because we're talking in general about runtimes here. And as runtimes of movies get longer, a lot of people say, oh, I hate long movies. And I always say a movie should be as long as it needs to be. No longer, no shorter. So if a movie is justified at 3.5 hours, perfect. 3.5 hours is what you get. Oh, damn it. I did not realize I had frozen. Um, so a movie is as long as it needs to be. However, the physical realities of people going to the cinema of an evening, you know, public transport, etc., things like that stop running at certain times in a lot of countries. It's not as safe to get home at certain times. So if you have a 3 hour movie that already starts at a later time and then somebody adds, an excessive amount of preamble to it, you're looking at a long time in a cinema, and you can't go to later showings. It's just off the cards for you, for logistical or even safety reasons. But Paul, moving slightly onto the topic of those long movies, The Brutalist is a 3 hour and 35 minute movie, but
Mhm.
that is including a 15-minute baked in intermission.
Yeah,
How do you feel about intermissions?
I think they're classic. I think they come from a time in which movies were more kind of theatric, like theater level entertainment than which is than the entertainment they are seen today. I
It
enjoy them when they are placed in properly.
Well, you used to have to change reels and all sorts of stuff. Like the intermission existed for all manner of reasons. Um, and today, in India, it's very common that most Indian movies and even when they show some so-called Western movies, an intermission will be added because nobody wants to give up on the extra snack revenue that you get at that intermission. So personally,
Yeah.
I am neither for nor against intermissions. I think, just like the runtime of your movie, intermission should exist if there's a purpose for it to exist. If it's timed well, like you said, Paul, but also if it's needed, not just because something's long, should it get it. And I think, The Brutalist, which I haven't seen yet, but they have their 15-minute countdown intermission with a picture. My worry with intermissions is that you lose touch with the movie. You lose the mode you're in. And Paul, I'm going to pull up a few examples that we can talk through, because The Irishman had to be on Netflix for the length it was and the type of movie it was. Because if you couldn't pause and go to a bathroom in that, I'll be honest, I would have got up in the cinema and gone to the bathroom. I wouldn't have been holding anything. Um, like there's a movie that suited an intermission, and it suited Netflix
Hmm.
for that purpose. Same thing with the extended directors, Zack Snyder. What was that? 4 hours Justice League.
Yeah, it was probably something larger than that, but that is the most ridiculous. Like, I don't like. I'm not going to hold back. I think director's cuts that are 4 hours long of movies that have already been deemed as not great is essentially just absolutely taking the Mickey, as we said. Like, I just don't understand it. It is unnecessary. It's essentially someone trying to fix a problem with time rather than actually talent.
I knew I'd trigger him and get him involved, folks. You see, I know my co-host. And look, there's something where if somebody said, "Oh, but they've got a perfect point for an intermission. They designed the movie around that." I'd be like, "Cool." So at the 2 hour mark, there's an intermission, and then you have 2 more hours. You can absolutely say that. Fine, that's their vision. I do agree with what you just said, also, though, Paul. But then there's something like Schindler's List at 3 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not watching a movie like Schindler's List to take a break and contemplate while I buy more Coca Cola and popcorn and then go back to it. That's one of those movies where I'm like, maybe if you think there's a financial incentive to have an intermission in any movie over 3 hours, let's just say that became the new rule. Please have showings of movies that have no intermission also. Because something like Schindler's List, I'll always know that I want to go I'll be dehydrated. I will make sure that I'm able to make it to 3 hours because I'm immersing myself in a story that I don't want to have a contemplation time in the middle of, unless the director specifically wants that. But I would never want it forced on me.
I think with Schindler's List, and I think type of films like that, I think the really kind of gravitas of being that long and stuff like that is that it's part of the movie, and I mean that in
Exactly.
the sense that like the pacing and the atmosphere and the consistency of the
The
topic or
relentlessness.
theme, yeah, is part of the experience of the movie and stuff like that. It's the same reason why, uh, like to use a more kind of like less serious kind of movie. It's why the minimalistic of soundscape in The Quiet Place. It's part of the atmosphere and stuff like that of the movie and stuff like that. You wouldn't want in the middle of that, like, and I know that that's a short film,
No, but
but in the middle of that
hypothetically,
film,
if
you
it
wouldn't
was a
want an
3.5 hour
intermission.
film, yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't want an intermission that it's just like did it, go to the kiosk and get your food, go to the
every
kiosk and get your food, kind of thing,
and
and it's like
everybody's out
that's
on the
really
mobile phone
ruined.
making noise. Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of it's just like this kind of really ruins the atmosphere and stuff like that. But there also is pacing. Yeah, longer movies have pacing issues, just specifically with the fact that they have a longer runtime, meaning that they need to keep the attention of an audience on them longer. You're right, I agree with you in the sense that if you have then an intermission on top of that, not only do you have pacing issues to do with the time and of the length of the movie and keeping the audience attention, you then have this 15-minute kind of like know nothing moment that have people walking away and kind of like their mood or atmosphere changes and stuff like
yeah,
that within. So like having Schindler, as I said, having Schindler's List within intermission would absolutely be such, for two reasons. It'd be such a kick in the teeth of the theme of that movie,
yes,
and two, it would ruin the atmosphere and like the feeling that that movie puts onto the audience and stuff like that, kind of thing. So it just intermissions need to be used wisely.
yeah, and I guess Paul, to kind of round it up a little bit, I think it's fair to say there's a pecking order here. If intermissions were to become a thing, and they had a financial benefit, and cinemas wanted to use them, I think there would have to be some care taken to say cinemas don't just ram in intermissions into everything as you feel. Let's try and get some sort of rules agreed. Primary rule, and the number one thing we have to remember is, Paul, whatever you and I feel, and we may, we could go through 1,000 films, and you'd be like, yes, in that one, not in that one, and we may agree on 900 of them, but that means, we're still 10% apart. Some people will love intermissions because of how they experience cinema, because of how their bladder is, because they have kids and they want to be able to check with the babysitter and it's a good thing, or they like more snacks, whatever it is. Others, like people like me, I'm like, I want to be immersed. I don't want to come out of there until the story is done most of the time. But in the hierarchy, it's if a film is made with the knowledge that intermissions are now becoming a thing, I think the filmmaker and filmmakers should be able to say, yes, you can choose to put an intermission in if you so wish. We're not recommending it, but here's where we'd put it.
Yeah, that's I was yeah.
Yeah.
I
And there should also be, we do not want you putting an intermission into this. And where it is that it's optional, I think cinemas, like I said before, should be smart enough to call that out and say, the 8 o'clock showing is with intermission, the 9 o'clock showing is without intermission, so that the viewing public can choose. I know there's financial needs. You can have much less of the non-intermission ones then and make it more awkward for people like me. That's fine. I understand business, and I would never deny you your money. So yeah, Paul, I think that's kind of where I land on it. If intermissions are going to make it come back in the, let's say, the Western Hemisphere, let's just be delicate and sensible.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree that the movie maker should be the one that deems. So I think it's a two-tier system. I think that if it's over a certain length, then there should be an option of an intermission,
Yeah.
and I think that intermission should be chosen by where it is by the studio, kind of thing. With movies that are under a certain length, and the way that they shouldn't have an intermission and stuff like that, and the way that you can control that is contract with the cinemas, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the studios The studios can have contracts where it's just like, this movie can have an intermission because it's a certain length, and this is where it is. That's part of the contract. These movies are too short. You don't have an intermission. That's part of the contract.
Yeah.
That's it, kind of thing. And then, as you say, I do think that advertisement of the movies should be that it should be the start time, the movie start time, that it has an intermission, and then the end time, kind of thing. And I know that the reason that they don't choose end times is because things can happen in a cinema, like, technical faults and stuff like that they don't publish out. But I think they should, and I think it should be an estimate rather than
as a guidance, exactly.
Yeah,
because I'm lucky enough that I live in a place and have a car where I can drive to and from the cinema. I tend to be driving to the cinema, so it means I can also go and choose the cinema I go to. But if I'm ever not lucky enough to have that, I may well be curtailing where I go and how often I go and when I can come home safely or come home at all. So yeah, Paul, the way I see it is, I think we both agree in broad terms. I just think it's interesting and exciting to see if this catches on. Either of these ideas, will people be behind the idea of, I want to know exactly when a film starts, and that's the only time I'll show up, and cinemas will lose lots of advertising revenue, and then, it'll have been counterproductive. Same thing with intermissions. We should stop, I can't speak. Same thing with intermissions. If you were going to see them more often, and cinemas kind of smell the financial opportunity, but also the comfort opportunity of, we're the cinema that when you go and see a 3-hour movie, we're the cinema chain that gives you an intermission, irregardless of what the filmmaker wanted. I'm interested to see if this actually, grows legs and runs. It's an exciting time, Paul, because I didn't see any of this. If you'd said this to me 6 months ago, I'd be like, nah. Neither of those things are seriously going to be embraced by the public, whereas both of them seem to have gotten a fairly positive reaction from the general public.
Yeah, I think because if you're a theater, it's the theater has been doing it for decades, for generations, and stuff like that. So it's just, and the cinema used to do it, and now they've gone off, and now they're coming back. So I don't think it's all new concepts or anything like that. No. I just think it's the stomach of where and when and stuff like that. The nuanced detail parts is going to be where this can be an absolutely fantastic choice or an absolute disaster. So
El Diablo dons la detail, which is Spanish and French, because I don't know how to speak either. So yeah, the devil is in the detail. Paul, I'd like to say, we don't have intermissions on this particular video. Sometimes we do, but we have them for technical reasons. But we'll always be starting on time as advertised. And I think you should join us. First, by hitting the like and subscribe and all that good stuff, but letting us know your feelings on this in the comments down below. All thoughts welcome. I'd love to get some feedback from all you out there. But in the meantime, I've been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. And we will see you next time.
Wait for the longest intermission between our episodes. It's just one long intermission, lads. Like, that's all it is. It's just an intermission. It's not ended. You just have to come back next week.
Do a whole intermission as a video. Bye.